Welcome to the Nehemiah E-Community Podcast. I'm Patrice, Tsague, your host. Today I have with us our board chair, Susan Schramm, also the founder and CEO of Go-to-Market Impact. Susan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy July.
Well, first, Susan, thanks for your patience so much today, but let's go right to it. So, Susan, let's go back a little bit. Today we're going to talk about innovation in AI because we're having you come to this global forum coming up where you're one of our speakers. And the global forum is titled, it's on July 17th, and it's on innovation in AI. And what we've done, guys, we've invited entrepreneurs and individuals who have both experience or are running their businesses using some kind of AI technology to kind of talk to us about the intersection of AI and faith and the practical application of AI in business operations. If you've not yet registered, go right now to Nehemiah eCommunity/event and register. It is free to all members, whatever level. Just go there, register, or shoot us an email. Susan, let's go back a little bit because you came up in Fortune 100, probably Fortune 50, in the advent of technology, and you kind of saw this far away coming down the pipe. Let's talk about your corporate experience and what you saw in those years, kind of pointing towards where we are now.
Yeah, I worked with a little startup called International Business Machines when I first launched my career, and then ended up as IT and telecommunications intersected. I worked with Siemens and Nokia and companies in the industry of essentially this thing called the internet that delivers video, voice, experiences. And saw both the excitement and the possibilities and the real world challenges and even ethical challenges as we were putting this all together. So it's been an interesting time now to see it all come together.
So let's go back to the internet because I was in business when the internet was coming. I was actually 19 years old. Right at when it was starting to be introduced. It was actually a free service. I remember that very well, funded by government. So you were in corporate when that was happening. So what did you guys think? And the reason I asked that is because now with AI, there's a lot of assumption, speculation as to how it's going to change the dynamic of business. So what was the thinking when the internet was coming, and how true to what you thought actually ended up happening in terms of what was happening in IBM?
Well, we saw the possibilities of the fact that the world of data could completely change the way we communicate. So if you take the internet, which was originally the idea of silos of IT operations and communication, they were different things. And if you start to bring those together, we started to say, oh, we can completely change the way we communicate. I remember someone saying, if you ever are on a call and you're looking at data and talking to someone at the same time, your computer can serve up that information to you and make you more informed. I mean, that sounds radical, but essentially that sounds today a little bit not very radical, but at the time it was a big darn deal. It changed call centers all over the world. I remember the fact that when we introduced voice over IP, the point was you could be anywhere. You didn't have to use the traditional telephone network, and you could have all sorts of information being intersected, videos and music and all this kind of stuff. It also started to propose some fascinating quandaries. And I specifically remember one time we were coming out with this idea of the ability to send messages through your phone and market through your phone. And we also had this ability to have location information intersected. And we had a new app that we were going to bring out called Find Me, Follow Me. Wow. And I did a test with a market focus group, and we found out that nobody wanted to be found or followed. And a lot of that was because of a lack of trust of the technology. What we found was people love the idea that teachers could locate parents in the middle of a school day if there was an emergency. Didn't like necessarily the idea of Big Brother looking over me and being able to find me and follow me. And I remember that specific go-to-market issue challenged me to think about the ethical implications and the
Mm.
fact that technologists often immediately jump into it could do all this great stuff, and the real world adoption would be, would be gated by people's ability to, one, understand it, two, trust it, right, and three, see how it applied to them. And I think we're exactly in the same situation with AI.
Wow. So with that, again, I'm talking to Susan Schramm, board chair of Nehemiah Entrepreneurship Community, founder CEO of Go to Market Impact, huge corporate experience in Fortune 50 from IBM, on and on and on. And she kind of saw the advent of this technology. We're talking about innovation, AI, and the intersection of faith. She'll be speaking at our global forum coming up on July 17th. So Susan, so you're saying there's similarities. So what are the similarities between what was happening then and now what's happening with AI?
You know, I think one of the issues that we're realizing is that sometimes the technology is ahead of our thinking, right?
Mm.
The technology can do things and we haven't sorted through it. And one of the things that's becoming very evident as we have AI now able to disrupt entire, workflows, essentially, you have these challenges of security and privacy, this idea of accuracy, accurate information, the idea of bias being included into the world of AI, that it makes decisions for you, which wouldn't necessarily be your decisions. And the thing that I'm finding is similar, very echoing my previous experience, was the fundamental values we have guide these decisions.
Mm.
In those days, I remember when we had online calendars were a big disruption because you had this discussion of privacy, which is who gets to see an online calendar? Who gets to,
Mm.
what do I want other people to see where I am? It was just an interesting point about it. When you can do things, that doesn't necessarily mean you will or want to do things. And when it comes to those values, sometimes they're not spoken. We don't talk first about what we value, and innovation often it disrupts by just saying what's possible, and that's how innovation happens. You try things, but along the way, the need to have an open discussion of values is core to how you balance the benefits of technology with human adoption, human value.
Now, since you came from IBM, part of your experience, our definition for what is AI actually came from IBM. And
I
I'm going to
hear that.
read it. And I want you to elaborate on it. All right. It says, according to IBM, AI technology enables computers to mimic human productivity, problem solving, and decision making skills. So that's that definition, and that's IBM's definition. So, anything you want to add to that? True. What do you think?
What's exciting is information's always been available for humans to consume and make decisions. And if you think about the telephone, the computer, the internet, they're all tools that we used. The thing that's very different right now is we're taking another step, that the tool's going to make decisions for us. That's a leap that's a little different than how we've used tools before.
So
And
we've
that
always used it ourselves and we process it ourselves.
and we
Now we're saying it will do its own processing.
That's right. So two things. This then begs the question of how will it make that decision?
Mm.
And you hear a lot about prompts, which is and prompt engineering in AI allows you as the user of it to frame a question that you tell it, what you want back. That's sort of a search model. But when you start handing over a decision-making process on your behalf, then you start to have to think through that decision making and that value system much more overtly.
Wow. You bring a thought, and I guess that is the fear, right? So prior to AI, everything was still available, but it did not make the decision for us. In other words, it gave us information that we then made a decision.
Mhm.
What you're saying is that the difference with AI is that now same set of data, but now we're saying the machine will be the one to make a decision. Example, for instance, prior to AI, I go to Google and I could search data,
Mhm.
use that data to put together a writing piece.
Mhm.
Now with AI, I can put a few sets of data in AI and have it put the data piece together for me, which is
And,
the
and
difference.
even as you've seen, applications where real time it's going to direct a customer interface or a
Exactly.
patient interface without
Yeah,
that
yeah.
human involved. Now, by the way, the world of automation has always scared the heck out of people as far as job
Mm,
elimination. And what we always learned is, I mean, when the automobile was introduced, people were worried that the buggy drivers would be put out of work, and they were. And then that created a whole bunch of new jobs that had never existed before. And the same issue is the case as the decisions and work is being offloaded to AI. There will be a shift in what humans do. Initially, it can just make the same human be able to handle more stuff. And that's a very good thing usually, or go to a level of value that hadn't been delivered before because
mm.
it could customize more than a human brain could. But as we think about the fears, yeah, the fears are okay. And it's a lot like children in terms of guiding values. A child who's taught right from wrong is better equipped to have discussions and make decisions by themselves when their parents aren't there. And so essentially, parents train children on what's right and wrong. That's exactly what we have to do. We have this child called AI, and when you want to use it on your behalf, you've got to equip it correctly with values.
Wow, that is incredible. So, which means the problem is not the tool. The
Right.
problem are the humans who will be responsible for building or how do you call it, informing the tool. Is that kind of where the issue
Absolutely.
is?
And so this is called, by the way, this is alignment. It's the alignment between computers or machine information and humans. And it's in fact a thing. In the industry, it's called the alignment problem. And in fact, OpenAI has a whole website you can go to. It's like what they're doing about the alignment problem. And the National Institute for Standards and Technology has a whole bunch of work going into the risk management of managing AI along this thing. And even the faith-based community is getting into this to say how to guide the programming because it's the unintentional consequence. It's
Mm,
it's a self-driving car that's driving down the road and has to make a decision between the person crossing the street. Is that human more important, or is speed that you committed in the car to stay with your speed more important, or is
or,
a
or is
is
it human or infrastructure that
or
costs a lot of money?
right, the choice of value, like value, is it more expensive, right? And
That's
so
right.
that's a real time thing. One of the things that we're finding is where's the human in the loop. One of my clients, Guidant, is in the world of self-driving cars, and one of the things they do is they are the oversight for when the car doesn't know what to do or runs into a condition it hasn't run into before. And this idea of, if the good news about AI is it's learning, it's a learning system, so it keeps getting better. But the more it gets better, and the more we tend to sort of delegate more, the more it starts to feel more comfortable and less awkward to work with it, the more we're likely to hand over the keys to all these decisions and unintentionally delegate things that we didn't even know we were conveying, our biases, our
Wow.
judgment calls, or lack of clarity about when they run into these situations. So there's work to do for humans to make it work the way we think. And then whose values are we talking about? Whose values is going to guide it?
Wow. We're talking to Susan Schramm, the board chair of Nehemiah Entrepreneur Community and the CEO of Go to Market Impact. She also has a book coming out, by the way. She'll be an author in the months ahead. She'll be speaking at our global forum on July 17th on technology and AI, or innovation in AI, where we'll be dealing with this idea of the practicality of AI, the intersection between AI and faith, and how do we actually use as a tool to run our business, to grow our business while advancing God's kingdom. Susan, so if you're not yet registered, by the way, you can do that right now. Click that link or go to our website, nehemiahecommunity.com/events. You can just register. It's free to all. You just got to be at least a bronze member. You can do that by just clicking a button. It's done. It's easy. So, Susan, let's, because part of why I want to have you on is because you won't have a whole lot of time during the global forum. And I want to give people some backdrop so that post forum, they can kind of watch this podcast and just kind of get some more context of information. And for those who are watching now, come to the clip forum because she's going to expand upon some of this stuff that she's not going to do here. So let's kind of transition to the intersection of faith. So with what you just laid out, what comes to my mind is this. It's not the tool that's the problem, it's the humans. So essentially, whatever issue we have going on now with humans, that will continue. But here's the concern about people of faith. It could accelerate. Let's talk about that for a minute. So let's say I agree, which I do, by the way, with you, that the tool is not evil in itself. It is a human who programmed the tool that are the problem. So before we get into the use of the tool in an effective way, let's deal with the acceleration of evil, which is one of the main concerns that people of faith, at least one of the concerns. So let's talk about that. How do we address the potential of accelerating? Now I could write a letter in 2 minutes, right? Just as a evil person can do just the same thing, and you can take it and apply it to anything else. Talk about that a bit.
Well, let's separate the difference of the speed of it and the actual, okay? Because just the fact that this is possible is in itself, let's just think about as Christians sort of how we feel about this idea that technology is making decisions for us. So God had this idea of creating humans in his image, and he gave us free will. And we know that as a result, every single decision can be either evil or good. What he didn't do was say, hey, here's the world, good luck with that. He actually gave us the 10 Commandments. He gave us, he gave us the Word. He gave us, the Holy Spirit. He gave us all these support to help us recognize that our decisions were in context of something bigger, right? So in the same way, I think we need to engage in the fact that there's two levels we can engage. We can engage in understanding it. Don't just sit on the sidelines and wait for this to happen, because it's going to happen. Just like telecommunication, you can say, I didn't want to use a laptop or a cell phone or whatever, but it happened anyway. So for Christians to engage is incredibly important. To have a voice to shape how this is going to play out is an important one. Then when it comes to our own businesses, though, in terms of the speed, the question comes down to thoughtfulness about the customer journeys, about, as business people, what customer journeys are we trying to create? How are we trying to create value with our employees? How are our employees going to grow? And instead of thinking it just in terms of a tool, think of it in terms of the outcomes we're trying to create and the growth and the values we're trying to convey as Christians in that. Because if we're smart about this, we'll have guardrails just as God guided us. We'll have guardrails. Here's how we use it here. Here are the values that we have as a biblical entrepreneur that we want to convey. And here's how we want to guide the choices we make in terms of the tools we use. These are things that will always be handled by humans. These are things that we'll be comfortable delegating to, in fact, improve a speed of results. So I think it is, yes, you've got to play with it enough to know what's possible, but you also, while you're doing that, have to be grounded in a philosophy and a spiritual position of where does this organization, where do I provide value? And what's the difference between what the computer can do without me, which by the way, if you program it right, will convey value, and what things are not okay? Where are we going to say, in other words, make sure your yeses are yes and your no's are no, and you know what you're basing that on.
So in a sense, what you're saying is that So when you look at a company's policy, so we teach that you have your faith, you have your values, and you have your policy. Those got
Mhm.
to align,
Yep.
right? So now, if I have not done so before, now in my values or my policy, one of the two, I've got to now let my faith inform to say, okay, how does technology and AI fit in, and
Right.
what are the guardrails that I need to put in place? While before it could have been a non-issue because the machine wasn't doing the thinking for you.
You. Right.
But now I need to provide that so that my team understands what I'm comfortable. I mean, simple example. We have kingdom companies who, for a long time, they would not have voicemails. They would not have not voicemail. What's that? Voice recording
Yep.
devices,
Right.
because they believe that a human should answer at all time.
Right.
And then after hours, they will push it to an answering service, right? So that was a policy. That was a choice they made. They said, we're not going to use recording devices. So similarly, and that's the technology, right? That's the technology. Similarly, what you're saying is we need to now think through our business operation or organization and say, what will we allow AI to do versus don't? Give the team a framework for them to be able to operate. Let me ask you this question though. So when they suggest that I need a coach or somebody with expertise in this, as Susan or somebody to help, I'm CEO. I don't understand this space. How do I even get to a place where I'm comfortable knowing what's in and what's out? Because I might do a bit of my own biases, which is driven by fear versus knowledge and practicality.
Um, Three thoughts come to mind. One, I think everyone needs to be learning this together. This is a grand experiment that everyone needs to be part of taking in. For instance, I wrote a blog today. I use AI tools to write about the blog about AI, right? And so um, everybody needs to have some personal experience with it for both understanding the potential and the limitations, right? Just that little exercise of going on to ChatGPT and blowing away, like have it write a speech for you or something, and then realize that it sort of made everything up, but it sounded good, right? That experience helps you as a leader get a little more grounded in the consequences. The second thing is, without any outside, you and your team can sit down and start thinking through what
Mm,
matters, where your humans provide value and where you wish you could provide more value,
good,
because it might be an opportunity to delegate to AI things that are lower value because you don't have the capacity, so that your
good.
humans can do things of higher value. And you can do that right now over a cup of coffee, right? Over the things you wish you could offload so you could add value. But then I think, yeah, when we think about coaching, I think about some of the expertise you need to bring in. Some of it is, yeah, AI experts, but some of it is business experts on how to grow a business, like my offers. Because one of the things that we're learning is that depending on the stage you're in, there's going to be different two things. Can on the stage you're in and where your customers are in their life cycle of doing business with you,
Good.
and their needs, there's going to be different decisions that you're going to want to make yourself with them, and ways to use the tool. So I think that the idea of the business life cycle is one framework to put it in context of types of operational improvement kind of thing, but also the customer life cycle, where they are in their journey of working with you. You may want to have some of your new customers have a onboarding with the humans, but you tell them one of the things we're going to do is use tools to help you use your spare time, so that when we get together, our humans can answer your questions. That kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of setting up. Elizabeth says this. She says AI has really helped her a lot in her work in project management. I mean, that's a good
Right?
idea because project management is very routine, very process oriented. I think AI could be a great tool for that. I mean, our current project
Right.
management software actually has an AI enabling tool in there as well. What do you say to that, Susan?
Well, in fact, anytime it's just like the next step. Like back in the day, we had this idea that if you ever you're on the phone with a person and talking about data, you should integrate the two. And now it's anytime you are doing an activity that's repeatable, or that you I mean, there's two different dimensions. Any repeatable activity that you want to have an outcome that would allow the person on the other end to move forward, perfect opportunity, right? If you're gating them, if you're gating a client or gating an employee by not giving information, and that information is something that you're comfortable guiding AI to help with, that's a great win. The other application of it is ideation, is the idea of, I don't know what we're going to do here. Let me just get AI to give me some ideas, right? So idea generation helps you think with it. And instead of waiting for the next focus group, one of the things I help businesses who are driving new strategies think through how to get a result faster with their strategy by anticipating the needs of their customers. You can use AI today to think through what your customers' concerns are at different stages in the buying process. And it just helps. You put a prompt in and you say, I'm going to sell this product at every stage in the buying process. What are they going to be concerned about? And then the tool gives you information for you to start planning. So lots of creative ways can be used today that aren't risky. Where the risk comes in is when you don't have any governance. You're not looking over how it's, dissing a customer who has a buying pattern that the system knows and says, yeah, you're a bad customer. I'm not going to, I'm sorry. I'm for you. You haven't bought anything. Are you going to buy something now? You never know it.
Wouldn't that still be based on the algorithm or how you programmed it, or could it override your programming?
Exactly. It would be based on the programming. It's just that you need to have a governance for it. By the way, as you would employees.
I was going to say the same thing. I mean, it's no different than delegating to humans.
When you onboard employees in the role, you tell them how you want to handle things. It's the same thing.
Except I found that it's a little bit more predictable. I mean, I hate to put machine over humans, but the machine is predictable. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does malfunction, but in malfunctioning is also predictable, meaning that it doesn't do its own will, right?
Right. Well, and then this is because examples we're talking about are really almost like a search or content creation. When you do insert it into scenarios, like you're talking to other vendors that we have, or business entrepreneurs, right, who are starting to use it to be that customer interface with interactive conversation. Suddenly, and we used to have, this is called workflow. It's called workflow. And if you find the workflow and you've thought through it, fine. And if it surprises you, you fix it. So it's not so scary. Where it does get, if it's not using truth, like if we think about truth, if it doesn't have a source,
good,
and it's just connecting data that isn't grounded in truth, and you don't check that it's true, you can't use stuff right out of ChatGPT and think it's going to be accurate, right?
That's right. That's right.
Up as it connects dots. It has no memory. So there's a lot of things about it that, you just have to know when it's safe, and you create guardrails.
Thank God, because it gives we coaches still have a job. Otherwise, we have a problem.
Humans will. All humans will have a job.
Yeah, talking to Susan Schramm, she's chairman of Nehemiah Entrepreneur Community and the CEO of Go-to-Market Impact. She has a book coming out. We'll talk about it in a few minutes. We're going to just spread the land up in a few minutes. We got a few things to cover. She'll be speaking for us at the upcoming Global Forum. If you're not yet registered, you want to do that right now. Go to nehemiahecommunity.com/events. You can just right there find Global Forum, register for it. It'll be on Kingdom Business, Artificial Intelligence, or Innovation. Elizabeth, if you're not yet signed up, you want to do it right now, so you can join us in the conversation. Be Susan and many other thought leaders and entrepreneurs who are using AI in their businesses. Susan, as we prepare to land this plane, I want to touch a bit on your talk coming up. So give us a little teaser. You kind of been laying that frame. So what can we expect from your talk at the Global Forum?
Well, there's so many different people on the panel. I've chosen to just create the context of what does the Bible guide us, right? Where are we where are we grounded? And as we guide this idea of values, what specific actions can we take right now, even if we're new to using this, so that we're not sitting by the sidelines but we can actually engage safely. And all the concerns and worries that people might have about it are valid, but how can we create a safe environment where we are engaging and adding value and grounded in our faith?
I love it. Here's what Elizabeth said. Elizabeth, thanks for watching and listening, by the way. As double-edged sword, um, I'm also a lecturer, she says, at university teaching strategic management and entrepreneurship. She says, what I have noted is that it's now becoming difficult to grade student projects. That is so true. Same
What?
thing here with, she's a lecturer at university and not grading papers. Elizabeth, I'm not sure about where you are, but I teach in two universities, George Fox University and Portland Bible College, and my grading system, for sure at George Fox, has an AI detector.
Mhm.
So it's able to help me to know what percentage of
Mhm.
my students' work turned in was AI generated, and that helps to guide me as well. So see, that tool is available for you over where you are, Susan. So I'm looking forward to that. Let's now apply this to the life cycle. As you know, we talk about this life cycle, entrepreneurs at discovery, all the way to succession and exit. So there's discovery, there's startup, there's break even, there's profitability, sustainability, scalability, and then succession exit. At which point of the life cycle do you think the AI or innovation in general is most appropriate to really consider, and why?
Okay. Is that a test on? Is that on your test as a professor? Um,
So I want you to kind of guide us to people are listening in. They are in different phases of the life cycle. So
I
which
think
one should be paying particular attention to this?
so. Okay, I think it's an amazing ally for a discovery. Okay,
Mm,
it's amazing because in the past, the question is always, how do I know what my customers are thinking? And
mm,
right now, in a very condensed way, you can use all sorts of AI tools for the discovery steps and walk in the shoes of your customers in a lot of different ways. So that might have taken forever, but it's going to just grab all sorts of interviews, all sorts of articles, all sorts of information around the whole internet for people who are in these different perspectives, and you can actually query with it. That's the one that to me jumps out to
mm.
me as a very efficient way to even say, what are the 25 objections you'll have about this product?
That's
And
good.
depending on what role the customer's in, like if it's the CEO, the COO, you'll get perspectives of just personas and different types of customer markets. That way, very efficient in discovery. Now, once you operationalize, then you're using it for this thing I just talked about, the customer journey model,
Mm,
where you're
mm,
you're actually integrating, and then whether that in startup, and certainly when you're in the next phases as you're trying to become profitable, you have two issues. You have the customer journey. Where do I put humans and where do I put computers? The other thing you have is, and you have the efficiency point, but the other thing you have is what early warning signals do I need to have? So where is AI as my second set of eyes over issues that I want to have more quickly brought to my attention? And that just allows you to be more agile, making decisions along the way. And then the other thing I'd say is when you get to profitability, I mean, you're all tools we use are now adding a little AI sweetener, right? There's not one tool I have in my suite that isn't going, and here's the AI version. But so that's fine. It's both from a marketing coolness as well as it helps the tool maybe perform in new ways. But I think where we start thinking into sustainability is, okay, if this is who I am today and I'm making that choice about expanding or staying where I am, becoming more profitable where I am, the choice is about how you go about expanding
mm.
could be changed entirely if you didn't have to do it all with traditional resources. If the automated resources were in there. The one thing I would say is, again, this human in the loop idea. Where will my humans need to be for me to differentiate?
Good. That's
Where
good.
is AI going to differentiate me? So it's
Good.
a thoughtful discussion, just like you'd look at where's my factory going to differentiate me, right? It's just
Yeah.
one more resource.
Oh, good. You just drop an amazing bomb. You kind of been saying that all along. This idea now is in strategic planning.
Hmm.
Now, just as I would before talk about the internet as this tool or any machine,
Right.
now I've got to incorporate AI into that mix of discussion.
Hmm.
Before it was the internet as either a marketing tool or distribution tool,
Hmm.
right? Is it a point of serving the customer or is it just marketing? Now I got to say, okay, operationally, where does it interface? That becomes, if I don't spend the time there, I might not have a great strategy.
Well, and you're going to be competitive disadvantage because
Yeah.
the world's going to quickly figure out how to apply efficiencies.
Yep.
The
Yep.
other thing that will be interesting is your ability to adapt as an organization will need to raise your ability to see what's going on, see how others are using it, shift, shift, shift. And so if you
Wow.
did it all through just humans and put the AI as if it was the bad guy over there, you want to make it one of your teammates, you know,
Exactly.
and you need to train them up just like you train up our children, and bring them along as one of the good guys, and then be smart, be like what is it? Be like doves, and know that we have to be conscious of security, be conscious of biases. Not just let's look over there and say the machine's working fine. I'm going to go on vacation. Have someone consciously overlooking their shoulder to make sure that it's working as planned.
Wow, that is good stuff. Susan, so one area that AI has measurably helped me is in terms of content editing and writing. In other words, I'm a content producer. So I've seen a measurable difference there because it taken my content production effectiveness to another level. Right now, I don't have to rely on outside people. I can do a very inside and then go to outside people. Like
Yep.
my editors come after. What's the one area you've seen where it's made a major difference in your business that you say you can see measure that AI has helped me here?
Yeah. Well, and as a writer, as a program delivery person who works with strategic planning, I think a lot of it is synthesizing
Mm,
ideas, right?
yeah.
So when you're trying to take lots of different ideas you've got, it does a great pass at. It's not very funny, by the way. I think AI.
No, is that-
I know there's always going to be a job for me because
right.
it's pretty
Yeah,
flat.
yeah,
It doesn't
yeah,
have a
yeah, yeah.
lot of humor.
It's very matter of fact,
Yeah,
It's,
it's sort of boring that way.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
does help you. I mean, you would never have had, at some point you just will never have enough editors or enough people. The
Yep,
other thing I'd say is in uh, training,
yeah,
that the idea that you can take people who otherwise you would have had real time, even Zoom time, of a
yep.
human being to help, is it can allow some feedback systems to help people get better at their craft, and that kind of practicing. I mean, um, this is where we shouldn't be fearful. We should just recognize that it's going to help all of us raise the bar a little bit. Where it gets fearful is when it's building information that you don't understand where it's coming from. It's
Yeah.
not authenticated information. It's courses
Good.
where they're using all sorts of ways to make other people's faces look different. It does make
Mhm,
you a wise like serpents in terms of skeptical. When
mhm,
you get delivered information that's built with AI, with generative AI, you need to sort of say, where's this from? Is this really someone I trust? And I think
good.
it's shifting, scenario planning and strategy is great, right? So all sorts of scenario planning using AI is a terrific thing that you couldn't. I do one thing with my clients. We do this pre-mortems where you sit around and say, what's going to be a disaster movie with this launch that I'm doing? That kind of scenarios can be accomplished so much faster. You can then, as people, brainstorm them, but at least you can have a first pass by a tool set like this. So I think it can be used strategically as well as in content development, as well as in training. Um,
That is awesome. And I noticed it's doing a better job now providing sources for its data, which
Depending
is
on
key.
your application. I mean,
Yeah.
whoever you use, like, I mean, I happen to know, I mean, Copilot with Microsoft does a very overt effort to show
Yeah.
you where
Yeah.
the sources are. That is not in
Yeah.
ChatGPT. And
Yeah.
so your savviness to know and ask that question is
Yeah.
the same savviness. that you'd have when you meet somebody who says, "Hi, Patrice, how you doing?" You go, "Do I know you?" Right? I
That's
mean, it's the
right.
same.
That's
It's
right.
that same thing that a little bit savvy to say, "Let me understand. How do you know me, or do you just see me on a podcast?" Right? So it's just
Oh,
trust. Where trust becomes uh, how we intentionally build trust with our people we work with is going to be a very high priority, because you're going to want to know what you're getting. Can you trust it? And your people you give it, will they trust you?
oh,
And we
that's good.
have to be intentional about how we're using the AI to, to be transparent that way.
So, Susan, before we close, give them a sense. So, go to Market Impact. What does it do, and what's coming up for you? Somebody's watching and listening and say, "Man, she's smart. I like this." They want to get in touch with you. What do you do, and what can they expect to reach out to you?
Okay, so after decades in the world of tech, launching products and processes and programs and companies, I created a business called Go to Market Impact and .com. And what we do is we help organizations ensure that their strategies get results faster when they're launching a new initiative. Um, I also help organizations who have strategies that they've launched get back on track when they're stuck. And so one of the things that we're doing right now is I've got a book coming out relative to fast tracking your strategy. I've also got programs that I've built over time that often help teams get on one page, because one of the biggest issues, talk about alignment between computers and people. One of the killers of most strategies is that you either didn't have alignment of your leadership team in understanding what you're trying to achieve, or as you're executing, you don't have alignment with the very people who have to take action. So we're working on, we've offered different programs to help organizations, boards, the leadership teams, partners, M&A situations get on one page so they can move faster and quickly identify the risks. And that is what I do: accelerate the understanding of what the risks are and put a plan in place to address the risk proactively. That's what I do.
Oh, I love it. And you have a book coming out. Can you give a little teaser of that book, and when can we expect it?
Well, it's going to come out in 2025, and it's a book that is called Fast Track Your Big Idea. And the focus of the book is on essentially taking the person who's waking up at night frustrated and eager to make things happen faster and doesn't know where to start. And so it's a
Mm.
way to really help you in a systematic way look at your initiative and apply how to help the people and your systems and your approach get there faster, and how to handle when you get off the rails.
When you were describing that, I thought of Patrick Luciani. I thought about, is there a parable in there, or is there some kind of story of that? I just saw this person. I saw this frustrated entrepreneur who get up and says, "Oh my goodness, what am I going to do?" And
Yeah.
then I kind of saw that. I'm not sure if it's
In
in the
fact,
book, but that's
stories. In fact, what I did to write the book was, in addition to my own experience, I did tons of research, and I interviewed tons of people about their initiative, their strategies that got stuck. And so I've shared a whole bunch of different stories about things that didn't go well and never got better,
I
and things
love it.
that did when they made decisions to make a turn.
I love it. Again, uh, Susan Schramm, the board chair of Nehemiah Entrepreneurship Community and the CEO of Go to Market Impact, upcoming author. She'll be speaking at the Global Forum on this very topic, and we have her and many other speakers. And if you want to register, if not yet done so, go right now to nehemiahecommunity.com/events. You can just find Global Forum and register, or just click that link right there, and you can sign up and join us. It's free, so there's nothing for you to worry about in terms of cost. Just join us there. Susan, before you leave, I have one last question for you. But listen, if you enjoy this podcast, I want you to share it. Share it on your social, share it with your friends. Friends share with friends that which edifies them, that which encourage them, that which educate them. I know you got friends who are stuck somewhere in their business, friends who are wondering about AI, our friends who are wondering, should Christian be involved? Should they not be? Who are afraid of certain things? Share this with them, that will guide them. And also follow us on Facebook, like us, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, on LinkedIn. So join the movement and join in with us. And if you want to know more about Nehemiah Entrepreneur Community, go to our website, nehemiaecommunity.com. There you can learn about training program from business life cycle and on, which by the way is free for you if you're online. You can learn about our coaching program, whether it's one-on-one or group. You can learn about our access to capital, where we can connect with investors who want to actually bring capital to your business, or you can learn how to join the community. We are a community of over 4,000 entrepreneurs around the globe, where we are at different stages of business, where we're working together in community to grow our businesses in a way that honors Christ and in a way that makes an impact in our community. So join us if you can. Love to see you at the next upcoming Global Forum. Susan, there are people listening and watching right now, and there are some concerns in their hearts. You've got the political uncertainty in America. You've got what just happened in Kenya with the young people revolting. You've got still the war in Eastern Europe. There's all kinds of uncertainty in the air. So, what advice would you give? And there may be a different stage of business. What's your advice as they look at the next 5 months, the next 6 months of the year, in terms of how do they navigate all these fears and concern to close the year well? What advice would you give them?
It's interesting because the uncertainty index, the World Economic Forum does an uncertainty index, and obviously it spiked during 2020. But the idea of uncertainty is just in front of us all the time. So in the old days, we wouldn't hear about all these things as much, and we could be focused on our work. But now it's constantly in front of us, and it does create fear and anxiety. I think one of the things that we've learned, well, I have personally learned, is that if I start with my faith and recognize that the context within which we're doing this is God's time, not ours, and that He's the one that will direct our path. And so we actually might have plans, but let's give them to Him because He has plans for good. The second thing I think is to be intentional, because a lot of the things that right now seem terribly fearful, there is an opportunity for you in these times to learn, to take path forward in terms of organizing your own business, to think through possibilities. I find in working with organizations, launching things when there's a lot of anxiety, there's just a fear that almost freezes people. And if you're willing to talk about risk and actually openly talk about what would happen if, and create scenarios for that, you can actually calm down your heart and just realize that what's the worst case that could happen? And how would we manage that? And what would we do to seize windows of opportunity? And what would we do to handle if we had harm? And that actually can be, as a leader, to not be fearful and quiet and clam up about this, but to actually openly talk about, well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the scenarios and what would happen. And recognize, with God as our guide, as our CEO, okay, some of that we're just going to give to Him, and others we're going to work on that we can act on. And a lot of the ways that you're going to help improve the community that you affect, bringing optimism of Christ to the community that you're in, the fact that there's a hope for a future, and we are part of that. So I think it's we owe ourselves and we owe others to be grounded in hopefulness in times that are uncertain, and to not run away from it, but to actually have open eyes and be willing to talk about it so people can calm down and see what they actually can make happen right in the world they're in their little corner of the world.
That was so good. Again, no matter what stage you're in, I love what you said. There's a hope for a future, right? I've learned that when I approach anything that I go through with optimism and hope, it's not a denial of reality, right? It's you face the brutal facts, like Jim Conlon would say. But for those that are believers, we face it hopeful, because He can work all things together for our good. That's some good word. Again, if you want to know about Susan Schramm, go to go-to-marketimpact.com. Join us at the next Global Forum as she unpacks some of this, and you get a chance to interact with her, ask her questions, and speak to other entrepreneurs and thought leaders as they address the situation with AI, innovation, technology, and the interface between that and faith. Let me pray for you. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord enable you to steward those talents that are under your care, and to do them in such a way that one day you will hear those wonderful words. Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. Guess what? He'll not make you rule over much. God bless you. Thanks for watching and listening. Susan, thank you again. See you guys at the Global Forum.